Hey there, and welcome back. Here we are celebrating the conclusion of our art project, our framing project. We completed that in the last video, and we were really pretty happy with the results on that. I just did want to, as a finish to this project, just make one more video to kind of summarize what we did, the cost associated with it, what we learned, and just kind of, finish off this project and close the book and get ready for the next one. So the steps we went through as we were creating this included planning and cutting the mats. Of course, then we had to order them, and we'll be talking about that a little bit coming up. Measuring and ordering the acrylic. Ordering the molding, and that was an experiment as well, so we learned a lot from that. Then the cutting and molding process, lots of lessons to be learned in that process as well, followed by the joining of the molding. Again, lots of things to learn, first time experience for me for a lot of this. I'm sorry, I'm swinging my chair, I'll stop that. Lots to learn in all of this, and then putting the whole thing together and coming out with a finished product. Now I will say, I was very pleased with the product I came out with. It's tight. It looks professional. There's a lot of good things to be said about it. This hobby is really great because you get to use your hands to create things. And contrary to most hobbies, this is a cost saver rather than a big cash sink. So we're actually making money from this and having fun doing it. And speaking of money, let's cover that topic here really quickly. So I don't want to go over the cost of this. The first thing we had, of course, to buy was the art itself. Now, we won't be including that in the final cost because no matter where you do it, if you do it yourself, whatever, you're still going to have to buy the art. So in this, just wanted to, come up with a final cost, but not a comparative cost. In this instance, this piece of art we purchased at St. Paul's Cathedral in London, and it was £7 or $10. The mats, I purchased these in a bulk set. The company I bought them from, if you bought 9 of these 32 by 48 sheets of matting, they would give them to you for $9 a piece. So I bought 9 of those, but I only used the 2 for this particular project, and I only used half of those 2. So we'll just chalk it up as $9 total for the matting. Now, if you remember the store we looked at, the company we looked at for doing this commercially, for a piece of art to be framed with one mat was $79. With 2 mats, it was $129. So they were charging $50 for just for the second matting. So that's a little bit ridiculous. The acrylic was $50. Now, I've done a little research and have been able to streamline that cost. I'll be able to cut that in half. So, live and learn on that one. The molding was about $50 as well. You're never going to get away from the expense of molding. This is always going to be your most expensive thing, especially depending on what kind of molding you get. If you can get some really cheap molding, and that's what it is, cheap molding, and sometimes that's perfect for your project. But if you want to get a little fancy, then it's going to cost you a little. So it is what it is. The dust cover I got from a roll of paper I had. I think the roll cost me $14, and it was about $1 worth of that roll. The hardware, that would be the D-rings and the wire. I bought a kit or a bundle of that. I think 10 of those for $11, so it was $1.10 for that. The bumpers, I bought a sheet of 300 of those, so those broken down cost me 3 cents a piece. And so with all of that, not counting with the artwork, it was $121.16. Now, taking out the art, that tells us that the actual cost of creating that framed art was $111.16. At the commercial place we looked at, 2 matted artwork with a glass, not acrylic, face, but their basicest, basicest, is that a word? most basic bitch frame was $129. So I got a kind of a little bit fancier frame. I did do two double molding. Again, I did mine for $111.16, and it's a pretty large piece. I don't know if they charge, if the size has anything to do with the charge or anything like that. I strongly suspect there's all kinds of upcharges for things. Again, the way they described it was $129 with 149 different options, and I can promise you each one of those options came with a cost. So I would say, if I were to compare, I would probably say that had I had mine done there, it probably would have been closer to $200. So I think I saved quite a good amount of money doing it myself. Even though I can streamline it better, and I will for the next project, I still think I came out quite a bit ahead on this one. We also learned a lot of lessons during this, as I mentioned before. I'm just going to go through a list of them I made and just kind of share them with you. The first of which is about cutting the molding. Now, when I started doing my test cuts, I just assumed I would cut the molding starting with the front. And as I was cutting my miter, the saw slipped and I scored the front of the molding. So, of course, not wanting to do that on my production piece, I learned that you should cut the molding from the back. So you're just basically putting it face down and cutting it there. You just have to make sure you know your angles and all that stuff, and all will be good, but it saves you the trouble of worrying about hacking up the front of your molding. Very important. I learned it's difficult, if not impossible, to find local materials. I mean, I could find a few mats, but they were very expensive. I think the ones I found at that store were like 24 by 36, and they were $9. So they were clearly marked up, but there was only like 5 colors to choose from. The other thing is finding molding locally. I found a few places. I called them and talked to them, but most of them wouldn't sell to me because I'm a consumer. They only sell to companies that have vendor numbers and create accounts with them. I couldn't do that. They wouldn't let me. So I couldn't find any local molding, which was really disappointing because that's the kind of thing I would want to go put my hands on, see whether or not it's warped. Maybe I want to just bring it home and finish it myself. I mean, there's so many things about being able to, put your hands on and purchase the molding I would have loved to do, but you can't. At least not around here. And I don't live in a small town. I live in close to a fairly big city. What you going to do? Buy it online, get what they give you. I learned I still need to get a little bit better at cutting the molding. I did okay, but I did have to do some manipulations off camera to make sure everything was perfectly lined up and that it came out right. I didn't want to share all that mess with you, but I did learn a lot about performing this better, and I will do it better next time. I learned that you need to be working on a clean work surface. When I was cutting the mats, I had them face down as I was working, and there was a grease spot on the counter I was working on, and it transferred to the matting. And that was terrible. I was super pissed about that, but I was able to work through it. What I did was I took a Q-tip and put a little bit of soap on the end and a little bit of water, and kind of rubbed it on the mark because it was kind of a grease mark. Rubbed it on the mark, and then took another damp Q-tip that was just water and rubbed it. And I'm talking gently rubbing, like you were doing art conservation or whatever, and then rubbed it to remove the soapy and whatever was attached to the soap. In this case, the oil. And then I would let it dry completely, like overnight. And I did that 3 times, and it finally lifted. And I was really happy about that. But that's why you see me working on the paper later on, and being super careful about not getting anything and about cleaning the counter and all that before I did it. So working in a clean surface, very important. And lastly for this, what I learned was to make sure you know what the rabbet depth is of the molding you bought, because the rabbet depth I bought for this project was only 3/8 of an inch. Now, I do believe I mentioned that I thought it was 5/8 of an inch in the video. That was just a guess. After going back and looking at the order, it was only 3/8 of an inch. And when you're talking about having an 1/8 of an inch acrylic, and then probably another 1/8 of an inch of art and matting, you're not going to have much room for any backing and then the clips you put in to hold everything in place. So you should start and make sure that your rabbiting for your molding is at least 5/8 of an inch. That way you can get the foam board in there and get a good seal with the clips and all that. So overall, I had a great time. I'm finding this is a very enjoyable hobby. I get to work with my hands and build things that I'm proud of. And like I think I mentioned, unlike most projects or most hobbies, this one's actually saving me money. So I get the pride of creating something that I get to then display in my home. I'm saving money, and it's just, to me, overall a total win-win. And I really had a great time learning it. And I'm glad you came by to join me for this project, and hopefully you'll watch some of the videos anyway. Hopefully you'll learn something like I did. And I've got more projects lined up that I'm going to share, and hopefully they'll be coming up soon. And if you want, like and subscribe to the channel, and you'll see when they're posted. And you can you can share these moments with me as well. I do appreciate you coming by. And again, I had a great time with all this, and it's really been very cool, and I'm very happy. All right, I'm gonna let you go for now, but thanks for stopping by again, and we'll chat with you later.